It's just a very, very powerful story. There was a guy that this was before the Holocaust, before World War II, that he was doing business with someone else.
Yeah.
And he had come from Europe to America. He was doing business with someone else, and they made some money, and they were shooting together. And then his father had passed away. So because his father passed away, he was like in a whole different, world. And the shutef came to him and said, sign some papers.
Oh boy.
Just need you to sign a few papers. So being that he was so overwhelmed, he signed the papers. In the meantime, what he was really signing was that he's giving over all the money to his shutef. The shutef took advantage of the situation. After the shiva, he found out what happened. So he realized that he couldn't go back to Europe without any money. So he decided he has to start a business from his own. So he stayed for another few years, started his business on his own. And because he started a new business of his own, he was 5 years in America. He should have had the money. He went right back to Europe. He ended up being 5 years in America, and because of that, he became an American citizen. I guess that's the way it was then. Eventually, he goes back to Europe, and World War II breaks out. Because he was an American citizen, he was able to take his whole family back to America, while his shutef was stuck there.
Unbelievable.
So sometimes we look at things and we think, "Oh, what happened? This guy was gypped and everything. He was really saving his life." Yeah. So there's a maimer. I was thinking, what are we going to learn? I want to learn something really. Yehuda and Mashiach. I was thinking, Voya Ekev Tishman, this week's parsha. Ekev is Prophecies of Mashiach. But Prophecies of Mashiach is still speaking how we're before Mashiach comes. So let's discuss really what's going to be when Mashiach comes. So I open up this Malukot Beis. Here it is, Malukot Beis. And I found a Maimer, Achrin Shel Pesach, the powerful Maimerim of the Gula. The Rebbe said this Maimer Tavshin Mem Vav. Va'avdi David Melech Aleim. We're going to learn a few pieces inside and a few pieces outside. Reish Chof Aleph. So this is the Haftarah of Shabbos Parshas Vayigash, and the Rebbe said this Maimer Achrin Shel Pesach Tavshin Mem Vav. So it says over there that even though we know there were two kingdoms by the Yidden, what happened was it was Malchus of Yosef and Malchus of Beis David. There was eventually that's what happened, that it got split into two. Originally it was David and Shlomo. There was only one kingdom, and then it got divided into two. Became the ones that Yeravam ben Nevat and Rechavam. There was the ones that was in charge of Malchus Yehuda, which was Yehuda and Binyamin, and then there was called Malchus of Yosef, that they were in charge of all the 10 Shvatim. So it says when Mashiach will come, the pasuk says, the Maimer starts with that pasuk, Va'avdi David Melech Aleim. That then my Eved David, which is referring to Mashiach, he will be the king. V'roya echad yeh l'kulam. There'll be only one leader. So Zok the Rebbe, Du Maimer Pektushis Meir v'cham yadmu l'siderei na pasuk shemevar sham. The pasuk zeh koyam Melech HaMashiach and Nikrav Shem David. This pasuk is going on Mashiach. That's called David. David Malka Mashiach. The Teichin Oinu. What's the content of the pasuk? The La'asilavi Yeh Mashiach David roya echad l'kulam. The La'asilavi Mashiach, which is called David, will be the only leader. There won't be any more two kingdoms. To be Yisrael, how you base Mamlachis. By Yidden there were two kingdoms. If you want to see inside. By Yidden there were two kingdoms. There was page Reish Chaf Aleph, Malukot Beis. By Yidden there were two kingdoms, Malchus Beis David and Malchus Beis Yosef. That Malchus Beis David came from Shevet Yehuda and Malchus Beis Yosef came from Shevet Yosef. And La'asir we say there won't be any more two kingdoms. There will only be one, and who's going to be this one? From Shevet David, from Shevet Yehuda, David. So the Rebbe asks on this 3 questions. Number 1, the Rebbe asks, do you have to tell me a special promise that La'asir there will be only one leader, there won't be any more, we're so accustomed to machlokes that you have to tell us that La'asir there will be only one bezdin. You have to tell me that.
I guess so, yeah.
You have to tell me that. I mean, we're already living, almost before Mashiach comes, so it's already preparing for Mashiach. The two bezins joined into one. This is the preparation for Malchus Beis Yosef, Malchus Yehuda to become one. So do we have to say that La'asid Lavid is only going to be one? Is there a need to say that? Why does the pasuk have to tell us that there's only going to be one? That's question number one. Question number two, why is it such a maila that only David, which comes from Shevet Yehuda, will be the king? We know there's a maila also in Yosef. We know when Yosef was alive, Yosef was the king, and Yehuda was not the king. So Yosef has a maila over Yehuda.
You're saying that it makes sense to say that there haven't been two persons? Like,
yeah, the Torah has to tell you there's only going to be one. That means you would think
that
there'll
makes
still.
sense that there'll be two.
Yeah, there's a mokim to think that there'll still be two. Why would I think there'll still be two? And what are you telling me? There's only going to be Yehuda. L'chayr is a maila in Yosef. Like we know that Yosef was the king over 10, Yehuda was only the king over 2. The third question is, the Rebbe says, is we know that everything that's going to be La'asilov, it's a very powerful word, the Rebbe says in the end of the Ois, very powerful. Kol hagiluyim de La'asilov tluyim v'ma'aseinu v'avidasenu kol zman meshach hagol. So the Rebbe quotes what the Alter Rebbe writes in Tanya, Perek Lamed Zayin, that all the revelations that will be when Mashiach comes, and Yisam Mashiach and Chias HaMesim, all come from our Maisa and Avodah now in Golus. Actually, this the Rebbe kochs in Parshas Ekev, in the Maimer Parshas Ekev, the Rebbe kochs that the Lashon of the Alter Rebbe, that all the revelations of Yemos HaMashiach and Chias HaMesim come through our Avodah of Maaseinu Vavidaseinu. And the Rebbe goes to a whole beard of his father, the Blavik, that Maaseinu is what brings Yemos HaMashiach, and Avidaseinu is what brings Chias HaMesim.
Wait, so what's Maaseh, what's Avidaseinu?
The Alter Rebbe uses two terminologies. He says the reward of Yemos HaMashiach and Chias HaMesim, there's two rewards, come through our Avodah now, and he uses two Lashonis for our Avodah, Maaseinu Vavidaseinu. So the Rebbe brings from his father wrote on the side of the Tanya, that one brings the other. Maaseinu brings Yemos HaMashiach, and Avidaseinu brings Chias HaMesim. And Rabbi Leivik says, to see what it says in the Igeres HaKodesh, the difference between Maaseinu and Avidaseinu. Maaseinu is something you do naturally. Avodah is something that comes through work. You're going against your nature, more than what you're accustomed to. And Rabbi Leivik explains that's the difference. All the things that we do to serve Hashem naturally, that's going to bring to Yemos HaMashiach. And the things that we do against our nature, that's the Avodah, that's going to bring Chias HaMesim. Chias HaMesim is a miracle, bepashtus, against nature. And then it's going to be revealed the level of the Eibusher that's beyond nature. That comes through Avodah. That's a word that Rabbi Leivik says, that's the Rebbe kochs in the Maimer on Parshas Ekev. But here what the Rebbe is saying is that in general we know everything that's going to be when Mashiach comes through our Avodah. In the Lashon of the Gemara, in the Lashon of Rashi in the end of last week's Parsha, it says, Hayoim la'seisum u'mocha kabel tzchoram. That now is a time of action, and tomorrow is when we get the reward. Everything of La'asilavi is just an outcome, a reward of our actions now. So it's really La'asilavi. We're gonna eat it like it says. Misha tarach ve'erev Shabbos eichel v'Shabbos. You're making the soup, you're making the chicken, you're making the cholent all before Shabbos. You eat it on Shabbos. So it's really now in Golus is really when we're doing everything. We're really accomplishing everything. La'asilavi is when it's gonna be revealed. So the Rebbe says, if La'asilavi, we're saying, there's going to be a Merdik Gezach, that there's only going to be Avdi, David, Melech Aleim, there's only going to be one leader, and it's going to come from Malchus based David, what does that mean for us now, in our Aveda? What are we supposed to do in Bizman Hazeh, similar to this, that will bring this revelation of La'asilavi? That's the question of the Rebbe. So maybe now you could say that the Taka, there should be one Bezin, but that's for the Bezin to do. But what are each of us supposed to do to bring this revelation of La'asilave, that there's going to be only one leader, and the leader is going to be David? So the Rebbe in the Maimer starts to go into what is this concept, Beruchnius? What does Yosef represent? What does Yehuda represent? And the Rebbe goes into Yosef means to add. Yehuda comes from the Lashon Heidah. Yehuda means, Pashas Yehuda means to thank. But Yehuda also means to agree. When you agree to someone, it means that really you hold differently. But because of some very something deeper than what's going on now, you're agreeing to him. Meaning, really, if it was only up to you, you would do it the way you want. Because you have a deeper agenda, you're agreeing to the other person's opinion. That's the concept of Heidah. That's a deeper level of Yehuda. Yehuda is to give into something else, even though it's not what you would want to do on your own. What this represents, the Rebbe says, is the concept of Seichel and the concept of Maisa. In Avodas Hashem, it's the concept of Limud HaTorah and the concept of Kiyum HaMitzvahs. Because the Rebbe says the nature of a person, the nature of a neshama is that it wants to just lie in more spiritual concepts. This itself is already a darga. That a person should just want to be involved in Limud HaTorah a whole day, just be involved in more in yonim of Seichel. That's the nature of a person, especially of a neshama. So the concept of Limud HaTorah, the concept of Seichel, is Yosef, is just adding to who you are. You're going along with who you are, and that's why there's a merdik geshmak. But the union of Maisa also comes from the word to be ma'asa, to force yourself. Is in a certain sense putting away what you naturally would want to do, and you're lowering yourself to a level of Maisa to deal with something that's on a lower level. This is the concept of Yosef, the concept of Yehuda. Yehuda represents a Yid doing iskafia, a Yid serving Hashem even though it's not so comfortable, which in general is the concept of Maisa mitzvahs. And Yosef represents a Yid serving Hashem with a meridik gishmak. And each thing has a meridik maila. There's a maila in serving Hashem with a gishmak, with a chayis, with a bren, with a gishmak. This is you're all involved. And the limud HaTorah is supposed to be with a gishmak. And then there's a meridik maila in doing mitzvahs with Kabbalah Seil. And the Rebbe says the maila of Kabbalah Seil is a double maila. Besides the maila that you're doing it because of Kabbalah Seil, there's a meridik maila itself in a person doing something that's not what he right now wants to do. It's called iskafia. The Rebbe says that itself is a meridik chidish, that a yid is able to put aside his gishmak and serve Hashem in something that's not his gishmak. The merid, I'm just derech agav, in last week's Likutei Torah, the Alter Rebbe over there discussed Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Shema Yisrael means a Yid should understand who he is. Shema Yisrael, we think we're speaking about Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, who the Eibishter is. The Alter Rebbe's Masber had the whole Shema Yisrael is explaining a Yid who you are. Shema Yisrael, Her Yid, who you are. Hashem Elokeinu, a Yid is one with the Eibishter. And then there's a lower level, Hashem Echad, how Hashem is one in the worlds. A Yid is connected to the level of Yochid, a level where the Eibishter, Alter Rebbe explains, the Eibishter had to make another tzimtzum to come down to the world. But the higher level, that's called Echad. But there's a higher level called Yochid, where there's only the Eibishter. And that's what a Yid is connected to. So Shema Yisrael, the Yid is connected to that. And Moshe Rabbeinu says afterwards, V'hafta. That means directly from there is supposed to come the Avos Hashem. After the destruction of the first Beis HaMikdash, he said, say Baruch Shem Kved Malchus Eloheinu V'ad. The Alter Rebbe asks, why do they say to say Baruch Shem Kved Malchus Eloheinu V'ad? So the Alter Rebbe says, and with another question, we have a lot of Yidden that are Takasei Shema Yisrael the way it's supposed to, and they don't come to the V'hafta. L'chayira, we know that Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu is the command is to think about the greatness of Hashem Echad, and automatically V'hafta is a continuation. It doesn't say Ahafta, it says V'hafta with a Vav. It's a continuation, it's the outcome. So why doesn't it happen? So the Alter Rebbe explains that in the first Beis HaMikdash, Yidden were on a very high level. And by them just thinking about the greatness of the Eibishter, put them on V'hafta. But for us, we have a big covering that covers over on our Avos Hashem. And to take off that cover, we need Baruch Shem Kved Malchus Eloheinu V'ad. We need to be Makabel O Malchus Shamayim, Malchus. Which O Malchus Shamayim, the Alter Rebbe says, practically what that means is to do different than what we're accustomed to. That's the concept of learning 101 times, giving an extra putah tzedakah. Whatever we're not accustomed to, that one is more precious than the 100. That the Alter Rebbe explains. That one extra penny that you give, that one extra time you learn, is more precious. And so too in Sur Meirah, if we want to even the Alter Rebbe says over there, you want to eat something and we wait a minute, that's also the Kaddish Atzma Muterloch, that's the Skafia. And the Alter Rebbe says that's why nowadays we could be misbein in the greatness of the Eibishter, but we don't come to the V'hafta, because the Anshe Knesset Agdela told us we need something in between, the Baruch Shem Kved Malchus Eloheinu V'ad.
We don't reach it?
The reason why we don't, Alter Rebbe says, is because there's two conditions to get to the Avos Hashem. One condition is to think about the greatness of the Eibishter, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, and the greatness of a Yid, how Yid is connected to the Eibishter. But sometimes that cannot penetrate us. In the first base of Mikdash was enough, because we have a covering, and to take off the covering, we need the Baruch Shem Kveid Malchus Eleilam V'Oed. We have to do iskafia. And I'll tell you, iskafia is not Gerisa Zachin. It could be that one extra time that you learn, that going more than what we're accustomed to. But that is very, very precious. So that the Rebbe explains over here. That's the concept of Yehuda. Yehuda is the concept of Kabbalah Sil Malchus Shamayim and doing what's not comfortable. So Yosef is when a Yid is serving Hashem with Geshmak. You're serving Hashem based on your comfort. It's limud ha-Torah is supposed to be. You're supposed to choose a part of Torah that it's Geshmak for you. That's the part of Torah you're supposed to learn. And then there's the Avodah of Yehuda, which is fakert, agreeing to someone else, even though it's not your opinion. That's very, very difficult. To take on an avodah that's not who you are, that's not what you're accustomed to, and that's the avodah of Yehuda. And this is always
aren't we supposed to do that with the Eibishter, not a human being? Yeducha is to
I'll leave it to you.
Submit our...
Depends who, where, when. Sometimes you got to do it too, right? I hope.
I mean, if it's a mashpia or a rav and you don't understand what he's saying, you can be meideh because he's greater than you. But if it's
there's always a place for everything. It could be a family member that you have to give into because
it could be you don't understand anything about airplanes or a doctor. But the Rebbe always gave us guidelines that we should always have at least two opinions.
Right. So these are the two avodas of Yosef and Yehuda. Is the two avodas of Yosef is your growing, is your geshmak, which is in general the concept of limud ha-Torah. That's the way limud ha-Torah is supposed to be. And then there's the concept of Yehuda, which is Maisa, which even when it's not geshmak, you're doing something that's not so geshmak, and you're doing that. And the question always is, which one is greater? The Gemara brings already, this was always a question in the times of the Tanoim, what's greater, Maisa or Talmud? Of course we have to do both. We have to serve Hashem with a geshmak and serve Hashem in things that are not so geshmak. We need both. And there's a mile in each one. But the question was, which one is greater? And the Gemara brings a machlekes. This one says Talmud Gadol, this one says Maisa Gadol. And finally, the maskon of the Gemara is Talmud Gadol Shemevil de Maisa. The reason why Talmud is greater is because actually that's what brings to Maisa. In order to know what to do, in order to get the drive to be able to go against your nature, you have to first have that Talmud.
So you'll end up having both.
So you end up having both.
But with Maisa alone, Maisa doesn't bring Talmud. So you stuff with Maisa.
Right. So that's why Talmud is greater, not because Talmud by itself is greater, but because Talmud is going to bring you to Maisa. The Rebbe brings a merit to Kavor.
Those that want to do, want to find out how to do it, no? Those that might have been wanting to do, and find out what you need to do.
Talmud is beyond doing. It's just Talmud.
Yossi, you have a good question. See, he really wants to do. But then you still have to have the Talmud to know what to do. But you're saying that Maisa will bring the Talmud. That's a nice word. The Rebbe says, Ad Kedei Kach, the Rebbe says, a Taich in Godel Talmud Shemevu de Maisa, a new Taich. The Pashas we learn, Talmud brings to Maisa. When you learn, you'll be able to do. The Rebbe says the learning with a Geshmak will bring you to such a level that you're going to want to learn Torah with pure Kabbalah cell. It's going to bring Lidei Maisa in the limud ha-Torah itself. The learning with a Geshmak will eventually bring you to a level that you're going to want to learn Torah just for the Eivishter. Gol Talmud Shemevu Lidei Maisa in limud ha-Torah itself. So the Rebbe says this is all Bizman Hazeh. Bizman Hazeh, we paskin, in the end of the day, Talmud Gadol. But it says in the Svarim state, that La'asid Lovei Maisa will be Gadol. La'asid Lovei Maisa is going to be Gadol. And the Rebbe starts to be masbir, very tifli in Yonim in the Maimer, why exactly. But the Rebbe explains that the whole dialogue, what's greater, that we need Taka, the Talmud, the mile of Talmud, is when there's Tumah, when the Avodah is with the Yitzhahara, with Tumah, then there's a maila that you need that geschmack. You need it. You need that drive. Otherwise, what's going to get you over your Yetzer Hara? But in a time where there's no Yetzer Hara, where there's no Tumah, so then when we're speaking about in Kedusha itself, what's the ultimate level of Kedusha that Rambam says is the level of Avram Avinu, which he loved Hashem just Lishma. It's called Lishma. That's the ultimate level. Not for a physical schar, not even for a spiritual schar for Elam Haba. To do it because this is what the Eibishter wants. Ratzin Ha'aliyim. And that's going to be when we say La'asilavi, Maisa Gadol means that La'asilavi, the ultimate avodah is going to be to just do it because this is what the Eibishter wants. And so the Rebbe starts to explain, this is what we say, La'asilavi, there'll be only one leader. Means La'asilavi, there'll still be, the Rebbe says, the concept of Yehuda and Yosef. There'll still be two mamlachas. There'll be the avodah of Torah and the avodah of mitzvahs. But it's all going to be permeated with Va'avdi David Melech Aleim, with the concept of Yehuda. With the concept of doing it because this is what the Eibishter wants. The Rebbe calls it the level of Yechida. Yechida, I was just learning a maimer of the Alter Rebbe, Yechida is Lashon Nekeva, Yochid is Lashon Zocher. Nekeva means it's a receiving. Yechida means it's receiving from Yochid. Yochid means what's felt is only the Eibishter. Yechida means by a Yid feels the only thing that exists is the Eibishter. So when a Yid feels the only thing that exists is the Eibishter, you're doing something for something else, because of something else, because of something else. The only thing that exists is the Eibishter. So that's the level of Yechida, which is going to be the level of La'asid Lavi. And the Rebbe says, and that answers the questions. Yes, there's a Merdika Maila in Torah, there's a Merdika Maila of Geshmak, there's a Merdika Maila in Mitzvah, so you're doing it just because the Eibishter wants. And there will be a place to think that La'asid Lavi, this will continue. And that we say La'asid Lavi, everything will be permeated all with only one point. Then everything is just going to be about Va'avdi David, just doing this because it's not going to be a dry Eved. The Rebbe calls it an Eved Neman. It's also going to be with the Geshmak. But the whole Geshmak is going to be that we're doing what the Eibishter wants. Ratzin Ha'aliyim. So the Rebbe says, so what's the lesson for us? The lesson for us is a person going to think, I have to serve Hashem Shaloi Lishma. And eventually it brings to Lishma. But who says now is Negei Avodah of Lishma? So the Rebbe says that Rambam brings in halacha this concept of Avraham Avinu to tell us that even in Golus, we also, start off with Shalei Lishma, but we have to know that we have to eventually get to the Lishma. And that Lishma is so important because Dafka, the Lishma, is what's going to bring this revelation of La'asid Lavi, of Avi David Melech Aleim, when everything's going to be permeated with the concept of David, with the concept of Yehuda, where everything is permeated just doing what Hashem wants, because Hashem wants. Because the Yid's Yechida is revealed. And a Yid just feels that only thing that exists is the Eibishter. Of course I'm doing what the Eibishter wants, because of the Eibishter. A Yid feels that's the only thing that exists. That's what a Yid is all connected to. So our Avodah now, to prepare ourselves for La'asid Lavi, to cause this concept of La'asid Lavi, to make it happen, is through our Avodah being also the Avodah of Lishma. It's very gishmak. This was Tavshin Memvav, the Sichos the Rebbe spoke then. A lot of the Rebbe spoke around that time. The Rebbe touched upon this point many times. 3 times in different sichos. How about even now there has to be the avodah of lishma. And one sicha the Rebbe explains it. How do you get to it? And the Rebbe says, well, the way you get to lishma, the way you get to this avas Hashem, is through learning chassidus. And the Rebbe says that from the Rambam you see that you're supposed to teach chassidus even to children and to women, because you see from the Rambam that even children and women also are eventually supposed to get to this concept of lishma. And that's only through learning chassidus. So there the Rebbe was saying the way we get this connection, this deep connection with the Eibishter, that we want to do it only because the Eibishter said so, this actually comes through limud chassidus. So limud chassidus is what brings us to this avodah of lishma, which brings the gilui of la'asid lavi of Avi David Melech Aleim. In another sikha, the Rebbe explains this, what it means practically. What does it mean practically? We're saying now we have to serve Hashem lishma. The only thing that exists is the Eibishter. Sounds very lofty. What does it mean in a practical level? So the Rebbe says in a practical level it means that when we have to serve Hashem, a lot of times we take in consideration, what does this person say? What will this person say? I saw a beautiful saying that it says that if a person is mechanech his kids and he's worried, what's on his mind is, how will his kids look towards other people? How are people going to look on his kids? That's what's on his mind. Not, how are my kids really doing inside? What's doing with them It's how they are being perceived by others. Then he didn't begin the concept of chinuch because he's not worried about his kids.
Where is it from?
I don't know. Just saw it today.
Start.
Yeah, because he's not worried about his kids. He's worried about what other people are going to say about his kids. It's all baloney. So this concept is very well. We all have it. I speak for myself. This concept, but when a yid feels the only thing that exists is yochid, is the Eibishter. That's all that exists. So that's all that exists. So what's the difference? What he's going to say, how I'm going to look to others, how people are going to look at me. If I got to do it, we got to do it all the way. And that's the avodah of lishma. That's going to bring the gilui of losulave. Lishma means all I'm interested is in the rotzen halim, what the Eibishter says.